very much once again, and I really want you to just welcome the convener, Francis Madojemo. Please welcome him. I mean, this is something great that we are having in the Southwest, right? So please welcome him. Thank you.
Hello. Once in a while, I'll switch the way I talk, so forgive me. I'm not used to talking to the general public, but I talk mostly in churches and seminars, so forgive me if I slip a little bit while I'm here. Thank you so much for honoring our invitation to be here. I want to first thank our partners, Bank of Industry. Can we give them a round of applause? Without Bank of Industry, most of you won't be sitting in this auditorium. And things like this cost a lot of money to put together. Just the cost of running diesel alone this morning would have been money we'd have to find from some other source. So I want to appreciate Bank of Industry for supporting us in this project from the very first day. So we're very happy to work with them. Then we have Dawn Commission, which is it's a unique company, organization that is in all the 5 states, and they helped us to coordinate in the 5 states. And this is the beginning of a unique partnership. The other 2 companies that I represent and run are iBridge Hub and, of course, New Streams Conference and Culture Center. I want to say thank you to my staff and my team for making this absolutely possible. We're not going to waste any time. This is not a government organization or delay anybody or waste anybody's time. But I must lay some foundations. I want to thank some of my friends who are here. Dr. Abib Olamitoye is here already. Reverend Jesse Song is here from Cameroon, but he lives in England. We're very happy to have you here with us. There are many more. I'm going to introduce the keynote speakers in a minute, but I want to challenge you. Nothing we do, the internet and technology and e-commerce is still, as much as we are behind, it's still in its infancy. There's plenty of room for development, especially for Africa. And so I want us to know that we need to remain open-minded about this. Nothing is fixed. Whatever technology you discover today, somebody will do something better in 6 months' time or in a year's time, and you make the movement. But let me put a principle down, and I've been trying to explain this. I'm not a tech person, but I have a love for technology, and I know the role technology will play in the next few years. And so I want to quickly lay before you a simple principle. I want to lay a very simple principle before you this afternoon. Most of us have to understand that they have been, we're going to have some fantastic keynotes because we're going to take you through the history of how we got here. But more importantly, you have to understand that one of the biggest things you and I must understand is that the technology is not computers or phones or laptops. Technology is the ability to do something faster, better, and more efficiently. And the only difference is that laptops and computers help us to do that better. And that's why all of a sudden everybody thinks that technology is using laptops. For instance, when you wanted to travel those days, you walked to everywhere you went. And then somebody came up with a horse or a cat, and somebody else came up with a car. Somebody else came up with a train. Somebody else came up with a plane. Somebody came up with a ship. That's technology. So let's not leave out practical things. But today, computers help us. The phone you are carrying right now had more computer technology than the rocket that went to the moon. That's how far we've gone. And so I want to challenge you in this particular 3 days. It's an opportunity to see how it's going to help you to do what you do better and more efficiently and reach more people. That must be at the bottom of what you're doing. We've gathered together some very unique people, and I want to thank them for the sacrifices they're making to be here. We're not paying them for what they're doing. It's the passion for which they have for this technology and this opportunity that has made them do what they're doing. So very first, let me begin by introducing, in the order of speakers this morning, the first speaker will be Mr. Adetayo Bamiduro. He is the co-founder of Max NG. They transform mobility and logistics across Africa using technology. They are on a mission to make sure that the last mile delivery, most of us are still responsible for delivering our goods and services, but Max has come up with a unique innovation. They go as far as even insuring your goods, so that if anything happens between when it's picked up and when it's delivered, your goods are safe. He's worked in many companies, with many companies. He has an MBA. He went to MIT. He's co-founded 3 other startups. He's won many entrepreneur awards and fellowships and many things. I don't want to focus so much on on that part of his life because we have his profile on our website. But at the moment, what I'm excited about is the unique thing Max has done in Nigeria. They've created employment for Nigerians. They've created opportunities for Nigerians. And they've taken the burden of those of us who have to do delivery. My prayer is at the end of this conference that Max will look at Ibadan and Oyo State and the 5 states as an opportunity to begin to help us catch up with what is happening all over the world. So I want you to please give a round of applause to Mr. Adetayo Bamiduro. A second speaker for today, fortunately for many of us, is my mentor, Dr. Tunde Adegbola. You have no idea of what the privilege is to be able to sit at this man's feet. And I've been doing that for well over 20 years. He started a non-profit organization called African Languages Technology Initiative, ALT-I. It's a non-profit organization. Today, they've been able to do a lot of fantastic work. A few years ago, they developed a simple method by which, using your basic SSD phones, local people could actually go to their doctor, and based on a simple code, it will tell you asikoti to lati mu ogun. So when they needed to take their antibiotics, the phone reminded them. There's a bottom billion of Nigerians who need this particular help. Dr. Adegbola is one of the leaders in that kind of technology. He's worked with all sorts of companies, and we've been begging him since to commercialize some of his products, and he's not interested. He wants to make sure that the masses get access to this type of thing. But I'll allow Dr. Adegbola to speak for himself when he comes down. He's done a lot of work with AIT. He's built television stations, Ogun State, and so on and so forth. So he's very wildly exposed. I remember 4 years ago or 5 years ago, we did our first summer of code, teaching kids how to code here. And 2 of the teachers from 2 of the representatives from Microsoft decided to come to visit us during the summer of code. And one of them got up and said, I will not be in Microsoft today if it wasn't for one man in Ibadan who taught me how to code as a child. Now, little did he know that it was the same Dr. Adegbola who was sitting in front of him that taught him how to code. That shows you how much gap had gone. And that's the same man that we have the privilege to have speaking to us today. The third person I met totally through another friend is a remarkable young lady who I just like what she does with technology. I like how she, thank you, I'll deal with it. I like the way she expresses herself online, but most of all, I really admire her knowledge and depth and understanding, not just of the technology itself and how to apply it, but her passion to bring it not just to organizations and individuals to make a profit, but to churches and other organizations to take advantage of what is available to us. She's Miss Shubomi Plumter. She's head corporate practice of Alders Consulting Nigeria. She's very unique. Her academic background ranges from government and corporate projects, in Alder, to all the way to foreign ministry work. But more importantly, she's a unique author by herself. She's published her own book. I think I have it. It's on Amazon, right? I think I bought it. And then not only that, she has her own website, www.shubomiplumter.com. If you're a young lady in this house, if there's one person I want to ask you to follow, is this lady. But you will let her speak for herself. I don't want to use their CV to try to cover them. You will see for yourself when they start to speak. Let me close I'm going to steal Dr. Adegbola's words. The computer is the only thing that mankind has made in recent time where the person who designed it cannot tell you what to use it for. Number two, it doesn't care whether you are black, white, straight, gay, crooked, lame. What you put in is what you get out. I'm going for a point now. This is the only opportunity we have as Africans to catch up with the world. They made technology, but we can turn it around and use it to build our people. We are ignoring the bottom billion. We're ignoring the millions of Nigerians who need technology developed for them. We need a farmer to be able to sell his goods and sell his products from his farm on an international market. This is our opportunity. And I hope you're up to the challenge. So this morning, without further ado, I'm going to quickly, I think we're actually ahead of schedule. So I'm going to take advantage of that. I'm going to immediately just call up Mr. Tayo Bamiduro from Max NG to please come and kickstart the summit. And let's welcome him and please appreciate it. Any of our keynote speakers, if you please have a presentation, can we send it to our media department so that they can project it for you? Your flash drive or your email, we can take it by email as well. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Tayo Bamiduro, Max NG. Thank you so much, sir. He's one of the few people who encouraged me so much on this project. Thank you very, very much.
Good morning, everybody. Wow, are we alive this morning? I said, good morning, everybody. Yeah, this is really exciting. Thank you so much, sir, for this extraordinary opportunity to share a couple of ideas. I think sometime in December or November that something like this was happening. I was very excited because it was another opportunity for me to actually see my parents. But I'm very positive that this will mark a transformational point in this city when business people, young people will aggressively embrace technology, not only for what it is, but what it can also do for us in terms of delivering on development and creating jobs, etc., and solving all the issues and the problems that we've all experienced for so long. So without wasting your time, I'll just go straight into it. Now, permit me to deliver this keynote in the form of a presentation. I think to make this really worth your while, it makes more sense for me to just talk about a few technical things, of course, using language that most of us and all of us here can resonate with, and also make it as educational as possible so that we can take out something concrete that we can execute on once we leave here. Once again, my name is Tayo. I'm co-founder and CEO of a company called Max NG. We're a last mile delivery and mobility company. Our mission simply is to make transportation and logistics safe, affordable and accessible to 1 billion Africans over the next few years. All right, while I wait for my colleagues to set up, my friends to set up the deck or the slide on the screen so that we can all see. Last year, I had a unique opportunity to visit the headquarters of the Alibaba Group. How many of us know the Alibaba Group here? All right, okay, well, I know a lot of us know Alibaba and the 40 Thieves, but the guy has taken that name and completely redefined it. The guy called Jack Ma, an amazing, inspirational person. And over the last 20 years, he's built this huge, humongous e-commerce company that has redefined trade across the world. One of the reasons why I'm particularly so excited about Alibaba, even beyond the big, gigantic Amazon that we all know, is that his story, or the story of Alibaba when they started, is very similar to where Nigeria is today. I have education in the US. I was privileged to have some education in the US and also in Europe. And while, there's so much inspiring stuff going on in those places, every time, I look at what they've achieved, something still hits back at you and says to you, well, I mean, they have power, they have water, they have money, they've been developed for a long time. These guys are the ones that brought about the Industrial Revolution, so they have an advantage. But when I got to China, all my excuses were cancelled. Because when I started complaining to the guys at the Alibaba group that, yeah, but things are tough in Africa, things are hard, it's difficult to scale. What they told me was, every single thing that you complain about in Nigeria, we've experienced in China in our lifetime. 20, 30 years ago, China was where Africa is today. But within 20 to 30 years, through focus, through discipline, and of course, good governance, they were able to completely transform their economy. And I'll show us as I go into my slide today. This just gives us a little bit of an overview on what I would share with us. I'll start by talking about the second digital revolution, which is what is going on right now. Now I'll talk about my Alibaba experience. I'll talk about Imagine Africa, and then I'll go into how to unlock hyper-growth. How many of us know what hyper-growth is? How many of us know what hyper-growth is? It's just big grammar. Essentially what it means is exponential growth. So if you grow from, say, 5 to 7 to 10 to 15 to 20 to 25, is that growth? Are we alive here? Is that growth? Is it exponential growth? Okay, but if you grow from 5 to 50 to 1,000 to 100,000 to 1 million, what is that? And that is the kind of growth that we need to save our nation and our continent and our city as well. Okay, next slide, please. I think there's a problem with the clicker. All right, so please move back. Yes, stay on this. So I was talking about the concept of hyper-growth. Sorry, I have to look back a few times. I wish there was a screen in front of me here to explain what this is. Now, if you look at how we've developed, how humanity has developed over the last 200 to 300 years, you would see the first industrial revolution and the second industrial revolution. And this brought about a measure of increase and a measure of growth for us as a society. We moved from, for example, from riding the horse to using the automobile, so we could move a lot faster. We also invented things like the airplane that allowed us to cut down travel time from weeks to a few hours. And that unlocked some measure of exponential growth for humanity. Could we go back to the previous slide, please? I need someone to pay attention to this, please. You keep going forward, backwards to my first slide on Industrial Revolution. Okay. I need someone to pay attention to this, if that's possible. So this is the beginning of my presentation. The next 3 slides. Okay, so stop here, please. All right. So the second digital revolution, the first digital revolution was the invention of the computer itself. And we heard our host talk briefly about the power that the computer has unlocked for us. But the second digital revolution, or what some people might call Web 2.0 or 3.0, depending on where you fall in that landscape, is what allows us to leverage web and mobile technologies to be able to interact with literally millions of people. So today, sitting behind your computer, or even better, behind your smartphone, you can build a business that interacts with millions of people across the world. And you can actually do that right from here, the city of Ibadan, without ever traveling anywhere. And that's the kind of power and the kind of skill that we can all achieve because of the technology that is available to us today. And there's all these things that we all heard about, like cloud computing, big data, artificial intelligence. Now, for some of us that have heard these things, we always feel like it's something that is very complex and something that is very difficult. But the truth of the matter is, the way technology is today, most of the platforms and the resources that you need, the hard work has been done by someone else. And all you just have to do is to key into it. So for example, for those of us that do things like targeted advertising on Facebook, Instagram, whatever, you can easily target your own kind of customers without understanding one single line of code. But the challenge is a lot of people feel like these things are out of reach or these things are too hard to understand. But the reality is you don't really need to understand how these things work. What you need to understand is how to use it for your own objectives. So with a little budget now, you can go on social media platforms like Instagram, for example, and you can advertise your product to 20,000 people in the city of Ibadan within 48 hours. You can actually do that with a very low budget. Now, think about it. If you would do this 10, 15 years ago, that's not very long ago, you would have to invest millions upon millions of naira in billboards. I and my team have been running a lot of advertising experiments over the last 2 years, and we figured out that, now, don't take my word for it, that spending money on billboards is an absolute waste of time. Absolute waste of time. If I put 10% of the money that I would put in a large billboard into strategic digital advertising, I would achieve possibly 5 to 10x the results. But because people don't know it, or because, a lot of these big brands, they have the money anyway, they have the budget, and someone has to, their task and targets is tied to how much money they spent on billboards. They don't have to be innovative, so they continue to invest a lot of money in the past. But the future already is here. Next slide, please. All right, so still looking at this question of scale, comparing the industrial versus digital economies, the industrial revolution in itself really fundamentally changed and transformed how we do things in the world. But look at what the industrial revolution unlocked. At its peak, we had roughly about 2 million taxis around the world. Now remember, the industrial revolution unlocked the automobile. So we had maybe 2 million taxi drivers around the world. But leveraging digital platforms and mobile technology, companies like Uber, Taxify, and our company as well, Max.ng, I'll put us in there. We've been able to grow from 2 million taxis to 150 million taxis around the world. In a place like New York, before you could ride a taxi previously, you would have to get something they call a medallion. Now, a medallion is very expensive. It's like your license to operate a taxi or a cab in New York City. But leveraging technology, thousands and tens of thousands and millions of drivers have now come online. You can wake up today and become a taxi driver, even in Nigeria today, in Abuja and Lagos, without ever applying to any union. And that's the kind of change that's happened right before us today. You can see what's going on with payments as well. I don't know, some of us, if you remember, when before you could withdraw money, you had to physically go to a bank. But now, with payments technology and mobile payments, most of us here can engage and conduct transactions seamlessly from our smartphones. I think it was sometime last year when I also decided to get in on this whole blockchain, cryptocurrency stuff. Well, it's a different story right now, but anyway. Right from my smartphone, I could buy Bitcoin. I could sell. I could have funds transferred to my account. That's the kind of scale we have right now. Next slide, please. And the kind of power that is at the finger, right on our hands today. Okay, I need someone to pay attention to me, please. All right. Now, moving on to talk about the platform economy. And what it really is the platform economy, I'll go into a little more detail as I talk. But think about it this way. Previously, before now, when you and I think about creating value, primitive business was purely trade. I buy something at 10 naira, I sell it at 12 naira. How much is my profit? Is that good business? Is that good business? Right? Yeah, it's not bad. Okay. But eventually we moved into some bit of automation and industry. We manufacture cars and all of that stuff, and we sell. And then people made more money and created more value. And we have people like Henry Ford and John D. Rockefeller who made amazing amounts of money. And of course, when these guys died, their kids never had to work again. All they just think about is how to spend and invest the money in impact and foundations. So they created a lot of value. But in our current age, we have what is called the platform economy. Now, one of the most powerful things about the platform economy is, it's simply what it is. It's a platform. You create something, and then people come and engage on it. Think about it this way. It's like building a football pitch, right? And then you invite players to come, and they play on the pitch. And that's exactly how the platform economy works. Meaning that you create an environment virtually using technology, and you allow people to be able to interact with each other. All you simply do is to do the work of a referee. But in so doing, you create so much value, because essentially what you've done is you've created a platform like what I'm standing on right now for people to interact in a very efficient way. Now, if I ask you, and some of us might know this, that what is the biggest media company in the world today? Well, I haven't checked the stats lately, but it's two companies that many people don't even consider to be media companies. It's Facebook and Google. So Google is a search engine, right? You use it to search. But the way Googlers think about Google internally is that they're a media company. When I was in business school and we did a case study on Google, Google had about 88% of the advertising revenue across the United States. 88% of an entire industry. And this is a company that is, at that point in time, was less than 15 years old. Now, there are media companies that are over 100 years old that have dominated this industry. Newspapers, etc. But in 15 years, a company rose and took up 88% of the entire industry. And what have they done? Google does not really create content. Do we know that? No. All they did was to create a search engine that archives websites on the internet. And then all of us, we go there, we search. And as we are carrying out activity on their website, they are taking all that information, making it, adding value to it, making it more accessible to all of us. And we all keep going there. And when enough of us had gone there, they took all that data and started selling it to companies. Very similar model with Facebook as well. So every time you go on Facebook and you post something about, oh, Nigeria is, challenging. Oh, I just had a new baby boy. Whatever it is you post on social media, you think you are having fun, but you are helping Facebook make a lot of money. Now, how do we bring this home? We as well need to begin to have that mindset. How do we create platforms that eliminate inefficiencies? When you look at a continent like Africa, one of the reasons why I moved back to Nigeria immediately, I finished my studies in the US. I mean, some people wanted to stay back and enjoy the security in the US, and it's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But for those of us that have seen, there's this documentary called The Men Who Built America. Is the greatest opportunities are found in the midst of the greatest challenges. If you are looking to add a tremendous amount of value, then you need to head to the places that are facing the greatest challenges, particularly great basic challenges. The challenges that we face in Africa today, in Lagos, in Ibadan, and across the Southwest are very basic challenges. And by just adding a little bit of innovation and technology into it, we can create an immense amount of value. And of course, there's a lot of things that go into creating value, but it's not something that is very complex. Once the will and the motivation is there to learn and to engage. One of the reasons why our company decided to go into transportation, specifically motorcycle transportation, was we ran the numbers. I didn't want to come back to Nigeria and come and build a luxury business, because if I'm building a luxury business, if I look at my market size, how many people can afford, to buy luxury items in Nigeria or across Africa today? At the last study that McKinsey did in 2013, I think, they estimated that there were just 8 million Nigerians in the middle class. 8 million out of 180 million. So if I decide to sell something that is a bit too expensive, that means my market size is just 8 million people. And I didn't want that. So we looked at the transportation hierarchy, and we saw motorcycles. Now, a lot of people are scared of motorcycles and Okada. Let me call it what we call it, Okada. But as at the last count, there are 12 million Okadas in Nigeria. The average Okada guy supports 5 people. Do the math. That means that the Okada industry in Nigeria impacts 60 million Nigerians, 33% of the population. If I am focused on that industry, and I take just 10% of that industry, and I impact just 10% of it, I'm impacting 6 million people. So that's how to think about scale. Some of us just, you look at an idea, oh, I like that business, let me go and do it. There's no science behind your thinking. You just like it. Why do you like it? Is it because of the value it adds? Is it because of the opportunities for scale? We're in an age right now where you just don't like this. There's data everywhere. So we seek out knowledge, we seek out data, we try to understand our society, our industry, and how things work. And that is the basis for delivering innovation. So for example, when I came back from the States and we started our company, the first thing I did was to walk the streets, for example. And I started making friends with Okada riders. And guess what? I went to learn how to ride a motorcycle too, so I can ride. And I can do deliveries as well. But I see people who, you want to make a lot of money, you want to create massive value, massive tech value, and you feel that the way to do it is just to build an app. Building an app does not solve any problem, I'll show you. There's something called design thinking. And what design thinking simply just means is you build a solution to solve a specific identified problem. So you don't just wake up in your room and you have a trance and you say, oh, people would love this. No, you have to run tests. You do experiments. You ask people, what do you think about this? And then you build a prototype. You build an MVP. You test it out and see how people respond. Let's move to the next slide, please. I'm conscious of my time. So still on the subject of platforms, either creating platforms or taking advantage of existing platforms, the choice is yours. But think about things like market size. I mentioned that already. How many people potentially can you impact? The fact that, okay, let me be careful how I say this. The fact that you are in Ibadan and you come up with a really beautiful, you have a brilliant idea, doesn't necessarily mean you have to start in Ibadan. You could say, okay, let me go and check out Ife. Maybe Ife is a better place to launch this idea initially because of the uniqueness of the people and the environment. These are valid questions to ask when you're thinking about how to leverage technology to create value or how to maximize the power of e-commerce. You think about things like segmentation and targeting. If you're launching an e-commerce business in Ibadan, where should you be located? Now, some people would say, okay, yeah, it's all digital. It's possible that your business is 100% digital, but there might be some physical component to it as well. Especially when you're starting out. Where should you be? Bodija or Ring Road or where? Those are things to think about. Growth hacking and distribution. I need to talk on this one. One of the most difficult things that businesses, no matter how big they become, that they continue to think about is, when I have created value, how do I achieve distribution? Essentially, how do I get my app or my product into the hands of everybody? How do I do that? That's the big question. An even more important question is this. How do I do this cost effectively? So today, remember what I said earlier about digital advertising? If I have a product that is really good, nobody cares unless they know about it. So how do I get my product into the hands of 1 million people? That is the distribution dilemma. And this is where all of us need to be most creative. Because I assure you, there are so many wonderful products all around the world, but nobody knows about them. Many great companies built very powerful products and apps. Nobody heard about it, and they died. And the people that succeed are not necessarily people that have the best product. No. One of the key determinants of success is the ability to get your product in the hands of the people that need them or that want them. And that is the distribution question. And sometimes it requires us to make compromises. So let me give you an example. And this is one thing that I've been trying to deal with in the African mindset. Let's say you come up with an idea now, and you say, okay, how can I leverage technology to distribute this? Or who can I partner with? And you go and meet a bank. Or better still, you go and meet a telco and say, hey guys, I've got this wonderful product. I really think it's amazing. Come look at it. And they say, oh, we like this. And the telco tells you, okay, on this product, we're going to help you distribute it, but we're going to take 90% of the profit and you're going to take 10%. You know what the average African will do? No, you guys are thieves. How can you take a whole 90% and give me that I own the idea at 10%. And then they say no, and they keep building on their own. And I say, how foolish. Do you know the kind of scale you would achieve if a telco distributes your product for you? There's a few guys that we know, and you guys probably have heard about it. I mean, MTN has almost become a solar energy company now, selling Lumos. The guys that built Lumos, amazing smart guys, had a really wonderful solar product. And they went to enter into Nigeria and they said, okay, how are we going to do this? And they started talking to the telco. And MTN said, okay, we'll partner with you guys, but we'll take XXX. Said, don't worry about it. It's fine. It's fine by us. Now, almost everybody in Nigeria knows about Lumos. Now, imagine the Lumos guys said, no, MTN, you guys can go to hell. We're going to distribute it ourselves. Distribute it yourself. Because when you also think about partnerships and strategic partnerships, one of MTN's greatest assets is not even their mast or their base stations. It's the brand name, it's the distribution. So that's how to think about leverage. When you partner with companies or you partner even with successful people, and some of them can be greedy, but it's fine. The way to think is that you are on a journey. Yeah, when some of the examples we look at today, people like Peter Thiel. Some of us might know Peter Thiel. He's the guy that he was the CEO of PayPal, the company that was bought by eBay many years ago, and all of them became millionaires. So the part of that generation had people like Peter Thiel, like Reid Hoffman, who founded LinkedIn, like Elon Musk, who's an African. I like to call him an African. He's actually a South African and has built 3 amazing companies today. All of them are part of the PayPal generation. But what happened at that point in time was eBay, this big e-commerce company, could not get their own internal payment system to work. They just could not. So they said, okay, who are those boys again? You guys have this your payment stuff, right? Okay, let's acquire it. And they made really good money. Could they have made more money? Maybe. Was what they had built then, was it more valuable than what they sold it? Some of us also were too emotionally attached to one idea. Who says, you start your company, you build it, you have a decent exit after 5 to 7 years, you move on to the next. But when you're starting your next company, you have experience, you have some money, and you have relationships. One of the easiest people that raise money for new ventures are second or third time founders. So people who've already built one company, and as they say, the first is always the hardest. When I came back and we started Max in Lagos and we had to raise funds, I mean, that was one of the toughest periods of my life. I pitched over 1,000 investors. I almost became a robot. I was on auto repeat, you know. See, almost everybody around me was as if they were an investor. I was just pitching everywhere. But now I understand the game, because it really is a game, let's be honest. And I understand the rules and how it works. So it's easier for me. So thinking about distribution, I know I'm taking a lot of time talking about this, is so critical. The whole objective of e-commerce is distribution. How do I get more eyeballs? So for example, if you're listing a product on Jumia or Konga or Gigi or wherever, especially if you're selling a commodity, the question is, how do you distinguish yourself from the crowd? How do you distinguish yourself from the crowd? And sometimes distinguishing yourself digitally is not necessarily even changing the product. It's changing the presentation, the feeling around it, the brand, how you communicate it. So critical. And then of course, figuring out the right distribution channels to get your product out there in people's faces. Next slide, please. This is an example of a village in China, because a lot of what I'm saying might sound theoretical to some of us, but this is a real life example. In 2010, this village called Suning Village, they were generating about 0.3 billion RMB. RMB is the Chinese currency, 0.3 in 2010, from selling their own locally produced things online. So who says that right here from the city of Ibadan, you cannot sell stuff online? Particularly things that are only found in Ibadan. or things that are much more cost effective to produce in Ibadan. Once, the government sorts out this transportation, mass transportation stuff, like rail lines around the southwest, I know a lot of people who move out of Lagos. That's the honest truth. Too busy, too congested. So meaning that anywhere you are, even today, you can run a digital business or you can move your business online and have thousands, literally thousands of customers around the country. In 2010, these guys were doing 0.3 billion RMB. In 6 years, by simply learning how to sell online properly and how to move their competitive advantage online and sell through platforms like JD.com and Alibaba, these guys grew 40 times and are doing over 13 billion RMB in 2016. 6 years, 40 times. What that means is if you're running a business right now and your annual turnover is say 10 million naira, it means that 6 years from now, you have the potential to grow that to what? 10 million times 40. 400 million. That's a lot of money. Naira. You can actually achieve that. Because these guys did this in an emerging market. So this is possible. Next slide, please. All right, let's move quickly. All right, so this is where I'm standing right there in this image is where, all right. Okay. Oh, okay. Sorry. All right. All right. All right, great. Where I'm standing there is Jack Ma's house in 1999, where they started Alibaba. So for some of us, it's okay starting in your house. Don't worry about it. I mean, there's nothing as exciting as starting in your house because they're not paying for office space. You can work 24 hours a day, and it's very cheap to actually work out of your house. But as beginning to grow and scale at some point, it definitely makes sense to go work out of a proper workspace. But anyway, in 20 years, Alibaba moved from Jack Ma's house to that corporate headquarters right there. It's a massive sprawling campus. And the truth is that this is really very possible for every single one of us here. Now let me tell you a little secret. Jack Ma, for those of us that don't even know this, does not know how to code. Not really. He just learned a few things about web development here and there. He was originally an English teacher and a government bureaucrat. And then he went to the US and saw someone using a computer and using the internet and said, oh wow, is this what this thing can do? I can take this back to my home country and use this to connect China's products to the world. And the rest, as I say, is history. In one single day, I was privileged to be in China when this happened. Last year on November 11, China did, Alibaba alone did $25 billion worth of sales online in one day. $25 billion. Nigeria's entire e-commerce industry for a whole year right now is still not up to $1 billion. Sorry. I'm not sure it's up to $100 million even. I'm not sure. Now, that is both unfortunate but also an opportunity. Because a more important statistic is to say, okay, what is the percentage of e-commerce, what is e-commerce today in Nigeria as a percentage of the total retail industry? And it is still less than 1%. Even in countries like the United States and the UK, e-commerce is still less than about 8% of the total retail economy. So even in developed markets, this movement is still just gaining momentum. So think about it. What advantage do you and I have over the big, huge, old companies that have all this physical infrastructure all over the place? If we're going to compete with them on the same terrain, we have no chance. Absolutely none. But leveraging technology, mobile technology, that is available at our fingertips today allows us to actually be able to compete with these guys. Sometime earlier last year, we've had multiple acquisition offers. And one of these, I won't say their name, big traditional logistics companies, they came to us and said, hey guys, we're going to take over your entire fleet. I look at them and say, guys, no. if this was distribution you were giving me, I would take it. But you want to take over my business at this stage. Now, this company had at least 2,000 motorcycles around Nigeria for corporate deliveries. While at that point in time, we had maybe 40 or 50. But the reason why we didn't do that deal, obviously, is because we are not competing with them just on the basis of the number of motorcycles we have around Nigeria. It's kind of like when, if an eagle wants to fight with another bird, all it has to do is just take it up into the stratosphere where it loses, it can't breathe anymore. So you change where you fight. And that is what technology allows us to do. That's what mobile technology allows us to do. We're able to engage on a different plane. Because if you engage in the traditional plane, they will out-muscle, outperform, out-finance, probably even hire all your employees. But if you compete on a new field that even they don't understand yet, that's what gives you a chance. So it's breathtaking scale, clockwork operations. Permit me to also spend a few seconds talking about this. I don't think I'm going to finish my slides, but one of the things that we are weakest at as Africans is in operations. Africans are beautiful thinkers. I can literally walk into any higher institution in Nigeria, talk to any college student or university student, and I'm sure they can come up with 50 great ideas. Coming up with ideas is something we're so good at. But when it comes to execution and particularly operations, operations is so simple but yet so difficult because it requires focus. It requires dedication. And every single business, whether it's an app or it's technology or it's mobile or whatever, requires disciplined operations. Which also speaks to the question of when you are building your team as well, as a startup, as a company, if your team is only filled with people that have creative ability and they can just come up with ideas, you are going nowhere. Because when somebody comes up with the idea, somebody needs to execute it. Somebody needs the discipline to follow process. No process, no success. It's that simple. I mean, look at the vision of these guys is to serve 2 billion users and to connect 10 million businesses across China. That's huge scale. And this opportunity exists right here as well. So going into Africa today, 1 billion people across the continent, growing very fast. We're going to be 1.7 billion. About 1/4 of our population today is young people, youth. Now, the current stats tell us that as adults, an African young person is twice as likely to be unemployed relative to his peers around the world. So unemployment is a really big challenge that's facing us. So if you're looking to get Chevron or mobile job after school, or for those of us that are still in school here, or you're looking for government contracts to scale, well, I wish you luck with that. Now, I put in a couple of the grand challenges that we face as a city and also as a people, as a continent. Electricity is a big one. 600 million people across the continent still don't have access to energy. 600 million. That's huge. We had slow economic growth in 2016. It's starting to pick up a little bit more now. Our informal economy is massive, 70%. When we say informal economy, what we simply just means is that what's going on in Bodija market, you pay, you collect your money, put it under your bed. So there's no data on it. But whenever you hear the word informal economy, what should immediately come to your mind is inefficiency and waste. Because it means there is no automation in there. The greatest opportunity right now is to bring informal things into the formal economy using technology. The people that you and I should be spending the most time with today are people like artisans, market women. You will be amazed at the kind of money that is in the informal economy. It's gazillions. But the reason why people don't know is because it's informal. It's disaggregated. If you could bring 1% of Nigeria's informal markets online today, that's huge. Really huge. Because it's valued in trillions of naira. But anyway. Now, zooming into our country, almost 200 million people. Follow me very carefully. There are 37 million small, micro to large businesses in Nigeria. 37 million micro businesses. I put small there, that's wrong. Do you know what a micro business is? Like tiny. You almost can't see it. According to Smithon, in 2013, there were only 1,000 large businesses in Africa. In Nigeria, sorry. So that means, think about it, out of 37 million micro businesses, only 1,000 of them became large. What are your odds of success then, your chances of success? 1,000 over 37 million. That's 1 over 37,000. So what this means is, if you are going to scale up, you are going to do what nobody else is doing. And to answer your question, it is not just about raising a lot of money or having a lot of capital. It's about understanding how things work today and how to leverage digital, how to leverage platforms, how to leverage social media, etc., to grow your brand, to put your product in the face of millions of people, to achieve distribution very, very quickly, very creatively and very efficiently, to leverage on partnerships, to learn very fast, to get a good and a great team together, and then to execute. It doesn't matter whether what you're selling is mangoes, but leveraging technology to scale, or whether what you're selling is kuli kuli. There's a friend of mine that started selling something, he called it Mr. Ekpa. And he started to scale, Mr. Ekpa. Leveraging innovative distribution chains to scale up his business. So we're not talking about just going to build an app. No. Take your mind off just building an app. It's about figuring out the needs in an environment, the unique competitive advantage that you have right here in this city, and then figuring out how to leverage e-commerce platforms, online distribution, social media channels to quickly scale, to grow efficiently, and to take over the world. Thank you very much.
Well, I'm happy to say that we want to quickly take the 3 keynote speakers. Then we're going to invite them to the podium, and then they'll take your questions. Is that okay? Can I suggest you start writing your questions down so that we can group them, and that way we can be a lot faster. We're having some problems with some drivers and some vehicles. If you have a Honda Odyssey, can you please go out and help us fix this? Your number is C2142MUS. That must be a Muslim boy. FST 296AH, a Honda Accord, a Highlander SMK 470EM, and then I don't know what vehicle this is, but it's SK783KJA, Lagos. Another one is AAA 59ES, Lagos. We have a limited parking space here, but we've made arrangements with our neighbors to allow you to park your cars. So please, can we do that so that we will avoid any more delays? We're live streaming this, so if you want to share it with your friends, and there's a Twitter going, there's a tweet handle for it, that they'll ask them to put it up in a few minutes. Without further ado, let's appreciate Mr. Bamduro again this morning for that remarkable presentation. You are not listening to somebody who is sharing theories with you. You're listening to somebody who's actually doing it. Max has a stand at the back of that place, which is manned by people from his team. So they will be here with us for the next 2 days if you want to have questions. But we're going to have a Q&A session very soon. I want to invite my mentor, somebody who's really been an inspiration and a blessing to my life, and who's brought me into this world of technology. Without further ado, let me welcome Dr. Tunde Adegbola. By the way, we have some senior boss from Bank of Industry here, and a government rep will introduce them maybe before we do the Q&A session, and then they'll say 1 or 2 things. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Tunde Adegbola.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a double pleasure to speak at a gathering where you don't have to say all protocols observed. You can just get on with it. Thank you very much. I thank the organizers of this meeting. I dare say it's something that is very, very, very almost overdue, which is in a way of starting my presentation. Once again, my name is Tunde Adegbola. My background is in broadcast engineering. Many years ago, I used to work as a broadcast engineer. Then I worked in government stations, then went to private business, set up a number of broadcast and production companies like Mainframe, Clink Studios, the companies that really got the Nigerian Nollywood going, and then later on built television stations like AIT, channels, Muri. I've seen the channel logo here today. But now I work mainly as a human language technologist, and what I do is make computers usable in African languages. And it is on that basis I wish to speak today about the future started yesterday. That means we are already late. Where's the... Thank you. Now, which is up, which is down? Thank you. I think somebody's going to show me how this works. Which is forward? Which is forward? Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, right. Yes. Yes. I'm starting by talking about changes and revolutions. First of all, let me try and define what a revolution is, because we talk these days about the information revolution. A revolution basically is a change with a fast pace and a high intensity. That means this change is happening so fast and the intensity is so high that you are overwhelmed. You are not able to take time to consider how to go with the change. The change overwhelms you and you do not have the luxury of deciding what to do when the change has started. To be able to manage a revolution, you need to have planned, you need to have foreseen the revolution, plan how to respond to the revolution, know what to do in various scenarios, and then have a plan. That is part of why we are already late. Because before the revolution came, we did not have a chance to think about it. We did not anticipate it. We did not think of how to deal with it. For that reason, we are already late, because we are now in the midst of the revolution. It's like a flood, and it's carrying us along with it. We are looking for things to hold on to be able to catch our breath. And if we do not quickly reorganize ourselves, we are bound to be swept into the ocean. Now, there have been many changes in human experience. There have been we talk about various ages. We talk of the age of the Stone Age, the Iron Age, today we are even in the plastic age, we can say. Yesterday I was at a petrol station and some people were a bit agitated, and you know, in Yoruba communities, when someone plastic, if that god of plastic exists. So we've had these various ages. We had the Dark Ages, we've had the Reformation, we've had the modern age. We even talk of post-modernism. But some of these ages qualify to be revolution. The changes that happen in some of these ages qualify to be revolutions because of their fast pace and their high intensity. The first major revolution in human history is what we call the Neolithic Revolution, but basically this means the agricultural revolution. That was the time that human beings found out that rather than being hunters and gatherers, you wake up in the morning, you forage the bush, perchance you'll get some animal to kill, you'll get some fruits to pick, and you'll get something to eat. All of a sudden, human beings this time found out that actually you can grow these plants around your house. And you can even claim ownership of it, because in the days of hunter-gatherers, two people get to a fruit at the same time. Who owns it? So you could claim, you could have kind of ownership. You can breed animals and domesticate them. At that point, human beings experienced a revolution. It was a change of fast pace and high intensity. Later on, there was the Industrial Age. The Industrial Age was the age in which humans discovered that they can use more than human muscles and animal muscles to do work. Before the Industrial Age, every work that was done by either animal muscles or human muscles. They'll tie a yoke to an animal and beat the animal, and the animal moves, and that plows the ground. But all of a sudden, we discovered during the Industrial Age that you can burn coal, produce steam, and use the steam, the power of the steam, to make movement. Why they talked then of the steam engine. So in the Industrial Age, we were able to use machines, to use engines, rather than animal or human muscles. The next major revolution is where we found ourselves now, and that is the information revolution. Regardless of what anybody says about information revolution, it is just about substituting transportation with communication, and I will explain. The core of the information revolution is to substitute transportation with communication. You find that most of what human beings transported, most of the reason for which human beings transported was basically to communicate. You remember when you take a piece of paper and you write on it and you put it in an envelope and you take it to a post office and somebody carries it and takes it to somebody else just in order to communicate. Mind you, by the time you take a piece of paper and you write on it, because the ink with which you wrote on it had weight, the weight of the paper has increased. So a lot of transportation was achieved basically in the name of communication. And I dare say that there's coming a time in future when we will have a meeting like this and we will not have to transport the masses of our body just in order to be able to meet. Before I came here, I had just finished a meeting with my colleagues in the US, just using the advantage of the information revolution. So we can say in essence, the bulk of what is happening in this so-called information revolution is the need to conserve energy. What we really are achieving is we are conserving energy. And energy is such a fundamental resource in every civilization, in every economy, to the extent that in Nigeria today, energy is a very, very big talking point because of lack of it. It is usually said that it is not by chance that the first thing God said was, "Let there be light." It is because it is from energy that everything else is going to happen. So the creation of energy was the first creative endeavor. Now, what about, we talk of the information revolution. First of all, what is information? To put it plainly, information is any pattern that reflects the state of the world. If you look at the picture I have there, it is actually the picture of a tree stump. It was cut. And you see that there's a pattern there. There's a set of rings. That is a pattern. And guess what? That pattern reflects the age of the tree by the time you cut it. Because each ring represents one whole year, one whole season of growth of the tree. So from this point of view, information is basically any pattern that reflects the state of nature. Any pattern by which you can understand certain other things. And what about the information revolution? I've already explained what a revolution is. So we know what a revolution is. But the information revolution in that context is the fast-paced and high-intensity change in the value of information. Information had some value in times past, but the value of information has suddenly changed. The significant patterns we see in society, they have a lot more value to us now than before now. What about the information age? The information age is an age of drastic reduction in the involvement of materials in human interaction. As I explained earlier on, human interaction involved a lot of exchange of material objects. But today, as a consequence of the information revolution, we do not need a lot of material substances in the process of human interaction. And for that reason, wealth today is determined and defined by your capacity to inform and be informed. That is the main basis for wealth. If you doubt me, in times past, the richest men in the world were the Paul Gettys, the Queen of England, the Sultan of Bahrain. These were people who had access to land, the landed gentry. Today, information. And by the way, if the richest man in your environment is a man that is moving sugar and cement, watch it, you are behind the schedule. That's why, part of why we are really, really late. Now let's talk about the information age. I've said that information is patterns that reflect reality. To arrange electrons into significant patterns. Why? What's important about electrons? Electrons are the lightest particle human beings have found how to manipulate with consistency. It is very easy to manipulate the electron. We have the capacity to manipulate electrons. So, now that we are able to manipulate electrons and it is very, very light, all of a sudden we have achieved that our objective of reducing the amount of material substance involved in human interaction, because we can use the patterns in the arrangement of electrons to inform one another. And if you are doubting why we are, it's the computer that has made it possible for us to achieve what we're able to achieve in today's world. The convener said earlier on that the computer is the only tool that the maker does not determine what it's going to be used for. And that's very right. Since human beings started making tools for probably close to 2 million years, according to what is called the Old Devon tradition, every tool that is made is made to do something specific. And the maker of the tool determines what the tool will be used for. If somebody makes a knife and sells you a knife, he's told you use it to cut. Well, you may use it to open Milo tin, but basically he's told you use it to cut. If somebody sells you a cutting board, it tells you to stick it into your ears and clean your ears. So the tools that were made according to this old Evan tradition, the maker determines its use. But for the first time in human history, on the computer, and it will determine what the computer will do. Well, let's look a bit at the history of computers. Computers started life as highly specialized tools in highly specialized environments. They were found only in these highly specialized areas where those who use them are very, very clever people. In those days, they even wore white lab coats and covered their noses with this, and went onto the desks of professionals to solve professional problems. At that time, computer had now become a tool for professionals, and computer skills had become professional skills. That was the time when, for the first time, people went to take an interview to be an accountant, and they ask you, can you use Excel? And you say, what is Excel? I'm an accountant. That's when computer skills became professional skills. I'm an engineer. I say, can you do AutoCAD? So, what's AutoCAD? So at that point, the computer, having moved out of the computer center, was now sitting on the desk of professionals, and that's when we started talking about desktop computers. But today, the computer is a common tool that is found everywhere and used for anything and everything. Computers have moved onto the streets, and you find them street corners, you find them on people's wrists, you even find them on people's ankles, measuring how fast they are walking and how many steps they've taken in one day. You find computers everywhere and anywhere. And at that point, we have reached a very, very important point in the development of computers and society, coming life skills. If you don't have those skills, then you are in deep trouble. And for us in a society like this, the question is, how do we get these computer skills, and how do we make it possible for ourselves to be able to use computers and graft them into our behavior as bona fide life skills? This is a typical, well, maybe not too typical, but I have seen this scene at a number of ATM points. The lady in blue, the lady in blue, is asking the lady in the, is that brown? Because colors are very granular these days. To help her get money out of her account. She says, I'm told the number is 123. And that's the number that we all refer to as a PIN. And I hope you know that PIN means personal identification number. It is not something to divulge. But because this lady is living at the periphery of the information society, as a matter of course, she needs the assistance of people to live life ordinarily. And these are the challenges that we now have with the information revolution and the information society, which we need to address. Because if we do not address them, then we are going to continue to live at the periphery of the information society. The unfairness of this is the fact that this lady made all her money speaking her language. She wakes up 6 a.m. in the morning, and by 8 a.m. she's probably been to 3 or 4 markets, and she's ended up in mile 12 in Lagos and is selling the things she brought from some hinterland markets. All the communication up to that point has been in her language. And she's advised, go and save the money in a bank. And of course, the government is involved in a process described as financial inclusion. Now, we have financial inclusion, or we are talking about financial inclusion in a society where not a single automatic teller machine can talk to the people in the language they understand, or at least in the language they prefer. The kick of it is that you even go into some ATMs and they will ask you whether you want English or French in Ibadan. So these are some of the challenges we need to address. We said that the computer is a general purpose tool. A general purpose tool needs to be instructed. But the question is, in what language? Let me just say that language is one of the core characteristics that distinguish human beings from lower animals. So if you, for any reason of course or any reason of omission, remove the capacity of a person to communicate in their language, you are reducing them to the status of lower animals. Even though we have bought into this colonization thing and we think it is brilliant to speak English, the fact remains that the more we deprive our people of the capacity to speak in their languages, the more we are dehumanizing them. You speak to me in your language, but I hear you in mine. That is a fact. And of course, Madiba, the great Nelson Mandela, once said, if you talk to a man in a language he understands, you are talking to his head. But talk to him in his language, you are speaking to his heart. Next time you go to the market and you find an Igbo woman selling something, manage some Igbo, you see that the price reduces. If it is Hausa, manage some Hausa, you find that the price reduces. And if you are in a foreign land and you approach somebody who is selling and then they don't know you are Yoruba, speak Yoruba to them. The communication changes. This is how powerful language is. Yet, we tend to overlook it. Now, the graph I have here is, the chart I have there is a chart of the Human Development Index of 71 Asian, African, and South American countries. It is arranged randomly according to the names of the countries. But when I arrange it according to the language of education, you see a clear gap. The ones to the left are those who train their children in foreign languages. The ones to the right are those who train their children in their languages. The implication is that by the time a child gets to school, there are children at home so that they don't have problem in school. But guess what? We are speaking to them. Open the door down. I cannot go and die. I cannot come and go and die. If you don't be careful yourself, fall down for daddy. Don't you know he's as daddy as your daddy? That is what we are speaking to our children in the name of English. And guess what is now happening? Listen to popular music. If you see anyone that has more than 4 sentences, let me know. And when a young person speaks to you, before he completes the first sentence, sure you get. The point is he has more in his mind than his language can express, because he doesn't understand the local language and he doesn't have competence in English. These are some of the undoings we are doing to ourselves. So we, as an organization, what we are trying to do is to make sure that the information revolution does not keep us at the periphery of the information society. Because the computers that are being used for the information revolution, they do not speak our language. But from our experience, we found that you can get the computer to speak whatever language in less than a few minutes. And now we have a spell checker for Hausa, we have a spell checker for Yoruba, we are working on spell checker for Igbo. We create what we call locales. A locale is a set of parameters that define how language and the environment is used. For example, in English, the day is divided into two, AM, PM. But in Yoruba, it is Aro, Osan, Irole, Ale, Ashale, Oru, Ajin, Iyaleta, and on like that. We should not allow that accident of a colonization to set us back. We work also, so to that extent, we've deposited Nigerian locales for Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa on the common local data repository, which is a worldwide repository where you leave all these things. We have localized Microsoft from Microsoft Windows and Office. God is powerful. He's always very careful not to say Chukwubuike, because that means God has big buttocks. Of course, in Yoruba, Owo is not Owo. Owo is not Owo. And Owo is not Owo. So you have broom, hand, detachment, and all that. So it matters. Now, these tones are so powerful in these languages that when you get to a party, the drummer makes a sound, and you say, oh, this man again. I say, I was Haven for machine translation. Shouldn't every computer science student in Nigeria put all their efforts into making sure that we can translate from each of these languages? I mean, to do the work is actually 500 squared pair of languages. I mean, it's enough work for everybody to do. And these are some of the things that we are doing to try to make the computer usable in our language. Let me end by reminding you that in 1998, there were only 500,000 telephone lines in Nigeria.
A few years ago, when blockchain applications became very popular, a lot of people have heard about Bitcoin. But I tell people that Bitcoin is just maybe one of 1,001 applications of blockchain technology. Now, the reason why I was really fascinated by blockchain technology is it's one of the few home. You don't need to know anybody to interact with technology. So for the first time, we begin to see principles of democracy playing out in the technology sphere, where your success is dependent on what you know, the information that you have, and is dependent on the speed of your internet connection. That's all you need to be successful in the technology sphere. So when we talk about on a Sunday morning, so it meant I needed to ice block in Lekki. Then I went to Google Ketra in Lekki, because at this point I was desperate. I needed to make sure I delivered on my promise. Immediately I Googled ice block in Lekki, Google Maps came up. And then I saw a number of people who were selling ice block around me. And I could chart based on the location, which ones were closest to my house. So I found a couple of vendors for Google. The phone number popped up, and then I called the lady and I said, do you have ice block for me to pick up on a Sunday morning? And she said, yes. Then I called the number of the person, the caterer, and I said, this is what I need, 1, 2, 3, 4. Can you deliver on Sunday? And she said, yes. Sunday morning, I went up to pick my ice block. I went to pick the food that we needed, for the beach party. I had never met any of these people before. None of them came to market me. None of them spent any money trying to get me as a customer. I found them simply because of Google. That's the power of technology. And I'm going to teach you how to achieve that level, of sales and that level of business success using technology. Okay, it's in front of me. So if you're in this room and your business is not registered on Google Business, you're on a long thing. You're cheating yourself. you need to be on Google Business. Sorry, I know we're trying to live stream, but I can't stay in one place. Sorry. Okay. So if you're not on Google Business, you need to be registered immediately. When you're registered on Google Business and someone Googles the name of your business, all your information pops out, including a map to your location, your phone numbers. My current mechanic, I found him on Google. These are people that never marketed me. I was looking for a mechanic and I Googled mechanic in Lekki. And I found my current mechanic in Lekki. The first time I ever met my mechanic, because he sends someone to pick up my car and he drops off my car at home. So I had never set eyes on him. Because usually I'm at work when the car is picked up, and by the time I'm back from work, the car has been dropped off at home. So I had never met him. I just knew things were going on. All the monies were transferred via my banking app. So I never met him to exchange money. Everything was via transfer. The only time I met him, I just realized, oh, this mechanic, I've never really seen him before. Shouldn't I, And I just drove to his workshop, in Lekki, just to put a face to the person that had been transacting. Now, what you need to understand is technology is generational. This habit I'm describing is this generation. We don't need to see you to pay you money. I'm old for this generation, but the habits that I'm describing is how a typical member of this generation thinks. A few months ago, my nephew was singing the Star 737 song. He's 7. And I just heard him singing the song, and I was like, where did this boy pick up this song? Because I know he doesn't watch TV. His parents don't allow him, to watch normal TV. So I asked him, I said, where did you hear this GT Bank song? And he said he heard it on YouTube. That apparently in between watching his cartoons, because he uses the kids' version of YouTube. So in between watching his cartoons, the adverts, the Star 73 advert song came up and because he's been hearing it regularly, now which bank do you think in the next 10 years that he's likely to do business with? Don't you think it's going to be GT Bank? Do you understand? So technology, this sales, digital sales that we're talking about, this generation wants convenience. They want to sit down in their house and just type a few, clicks, and business is going on without any conversation, and, they want to see the price. They don't want to haggle. So they want to be able to compare the price from A, B, C, D, and then make a decision based on who has the cheapest price. They don't need to talk to you to make that determination. So that's the way this generation thinks. So when we talk about technology, the people that use technology now, in 10 years, they will own the market. Just like when I started my job, GT Bank then had this wonderful chandeliers, piano in the banking hall. So a lot of us flocked to GT Bank then because of service, right? Now, 10, 15 years later, our companies are using GT Bank because they appealed to us as individuals. And then 15 years later, when we then had money, our businesses went to the banks. So in the same way, technology is a 10, 15-year play. The people you capture today with technology in 10, 15 years, they're your customers for life. Because you've already introduced them using the tools that they understand and using the tools that they like. You can learn everything on YouTube. I learned how to tie gele, watching a video. Nobody taught me. I just watched a video and learned how to tie gele. There's nothing you cannot learn on YouTube. Just go to YouTube. How do I XYZ? You find it on YouTube. I remember there was a day I came home and my door was jammed. I couldn't open the door. I just went to YouTube. How do you free a jammed lock? And I got like 5 different solutions. In 20 minutes, my door was open. I unscrewed the door in 20 minutes. So there's absolutely nothing that people cannot learn on YouTube. So that's why if your business is not available, when people are doing comparison and they are shopping and they can't see anything about you on the internet or on social media, you're taking yourself out of the market. That's what you're doing. You're just basically taking yourself out of the market. Now, a lot of times people have this idea about social media, that social media is, something that small boys and girls, do. Jobless people, people that don't have work, that's what they do. But social media is so much more than that. It's become a tool for advocacy. There's a lot of political discussion that currently happens on social media. You get information. I've talked about YouTube, how you can find anything on YouTube. It's become a business place. I'll talk a little bit about business. It's where you get your news. Do you know that a lot of the newspapers now get the news from social media, then report it the next day? After we've all heard about it, then it's the next morning that the 18 to 35-year-old audience is no longer on TV. Music television, MTV. Their 18 to 35-year-old audience is no longer on TV. They're now on YouTube. So they watch the music videos more on YouTube than television. So what does that tell you about the future of television going forward? Netflix now has more subscribers in the US than all the cable stations put together. Netflix. So what does that tell you about the future of television? Then relationships. People meet and date via different dating apps. You see a lot of stories on Twitter. We met in the DM, and now we're here. So even the nature of relationships is beginning to change because, of the internet. I met her at the time, so she sent me a message because I post stuff about travels and things like that. She sent me a message and she said, "Oh, I noticed you're in town. Would you like to have a drink?" At the time, I had no idea who she was. I just went to Facebook. I looked, okay, do we have any friends in common? I just went to look at her profile, blah, blah. I saw, okay, CNN, okay, maybe it's a business-related meeting. So, of course, I accepted her friend request and then agreed that we would meet to have drinks. Fast forward a few years later, she relocated to Nigeria. And then, of course, because we had made that initial contact via Facebook and via going out for initial drinks, a few years later, she's now in Nigeria. And she's now one of my closest friends. This is someone I met on Facebook. Relationships are changing. Networking. There is nobody you want to meet in this world. I remember during the days of the Fugees, for those who are music historians, in the Fugees you had Praz, you had Wyclef Jean, and you had Lauryn Hill. I remember I once met a member of the Fugees online. Just having a random conversation, and he just popped up. And we just started having a discussion about Africa. Randomly. There's nobody you want to meet in this world that you cannot connect with via technology. So all those people who are saying, I want to network, your network is on social media. Your network is on LinkedIn, it's on Facebook, it's on Twitter. You can meet more people than you would have ever imagined on social media. Now, I said I was going to talk about business. Before I go into statistics, I started an online course for investment. So I teach about 7 different places you can invest in Nigeria. And I started a course. It's a WhatsApp and video course. And how did I start?
I started writing about investment. So I was, a bit angry at the banks at the time, at the ridiculous rates that the banks were giving, savings account holders. So I decided I was going to do my research and I was going to find out where are the places people actually invest and make money in Nigeria. So in doing the research, I started writing. I just started writing on my blog, on Facebook, on Twitter about investment. And then I got a call from a bank in Nigeria. And the bank said, oh, we noticed you write about investment. You seem to have a lot of following and all of that. Would you like to be a corporate wealth representative for the bank? Of course, I said yes. Then I got a call from a securities brokerage firm, a stock trading firm. And they said, oh, we noticed you write about investment. People seem to follow you. Would you like to be a corporate wealth rep? Of course, I said yes. Now, the information I had at my disposal, simply from having access to the data reports from these two organizations, it occurred to me that if I have this information, I can sell this information through an investment course. So I put up a notice on Facebook and I said, oh, how many people are interested? I'm thinking of doing this 3-day course on WhatsApp. I'll do a couple of videos, blah, blah, blah. 100 people signed up. So already I've created an international market without having to travel. Just from sitting down in my house typing on Facebook, I've created an international market without doing any serious marketing, just sitting down in one place and monies are coming in. That's the power of the internet. That's how the internet helps you galvanize your sales and your marketing. Now I'm going to quickly show you some stats and then we're going to go into how. Penetration rate of WhatsApp is 41%. WhatsApp is the biggest business platform in technology right now in Nigeria. So if you're not using WhatsApp well, WhatsApp has just released WhatsApp Business. It's a tool to help businesses sell on WhatsApp. Facebook is also about 41%. So Facebook is also a major marketing platform and sales platform in Nigeria. And then Instagram and YouTube have a penetration rate of about 25%. So as a business, I would focus my effort on WhatsApp and Facebook before going to Instagram and YouTube. Okay? Because that's where the market, but again, it depends on your product. If your product is very visual, you might want to use YouTube because of videos. If you want to do explainer videos, it might be better for you to use YouTube. The highest search results in Nigeria about music. Music has the highest search result, followed by fashion. Does that give you ideas of the kind of products you should be selling? Music and fashion, Nigerians are obsessed with music and fashion. I thought sports would have been, among the top two. But apparently, music and fashion are the top two topics that are searched for online by Nigerians. These are Google trends, what Nigerians searched for in 2017. Number one is Buhari dead. That was the highest search result in Nigeria in terms of questions in 2017. People are searching, how do they check their JAM results? How do they check their WAEC results? This is what Nigerians are interested in. Evans the kidnapper. Then if you look at how to, when people go to Google and they say how to or how do I, the top result, how to write application for jobs. That's what Nigerians are looking for. So it begins to tell you these are product opportunities for people who can answer these questions. How do I write an application letter? How do I install software? Apparently Nigerians want to know how to install software. How do I root my Android phone? Is a major search item on Google. How do I cook soups? And then rice dishes. Isn't this a business opportunity for caterers? People want to learn how to cook soup and rice-based dishes. They want to know how to bake cakes and make pancake. So just mining the data, just finding out what Nigerians are interested in, it's a huge product opportunity. Now, how do you begin? I've said all this grammar. How do you start? The first thing is please register for Google Business. Paystack is going to be talking a little bit during this conference. So you need to talk to Paystack so that you can integrate payments into your website. And then there's something called Google Remarketing. When someone searches for chicken, and then goes to your website, and then everywhere they go, they just keep seeing adverts from your website on chicken. That's Google Remarketing, because it's a keyword they're searching for, and your website just happens to sell chicken. So everywhere they go, if they just happen to stumble on your website for the first time, everywhere they go, they keep being followed by adverts from your website. So have you optimized your platforms? Facebook has a similar technology, Facebook Pixel. So all of these things you must optimize. Your web developer must be one of your major resource persons as a business. If you have to hire a web developer to get it, it's one of the best investments you can ever make. Your web developer is one of the most important resource persons you have as a business owner. Can people find your contact information quickly? So when I go to your website, I can see your phone number, your email, all your social media platforms immediately. And then do I have enough information without having to call you? Is that information very clearly spelled out up to the point where I click buy? Is the information clear? All of this must be done before you can start selling. I have 3 minutes more. Then you need to utilize what is called keyword search. On Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, people are searching for all sorts of things. They're talking about all sorts of things. So what I do is that I have a keyword search set up for investment in Nigeria. So anytime anybody types investment in Nigeria on Twitter, I get a notification, because that's a topic I want to engage on. So if anybody types, how do I invest in Nigeria, I get a notification so that I can quickly engage that person and sell my products. So you need to take advantage. All these tools are free. So when someone types cake in Ibadan, does your website show up? Do you get a notification so that you can quickly engage that person on Twitter offering your service as a cake maker in Ibadan? These are free tools that you can take advantage of. Then speak and engage. Interrupt conversations. When conversations are happening on Twitter that concern me, I'm not polite. I interrupt. Because I'm engaging. I'm selling my product. So as long as it's a conversation that has something to do with my product, I invite myself to the conversation. That's how you engage on social media. You provide information, provide useful links to articles that might interest them. So you're also helpful. As part of your engagement, you're helpful. So these are all things, so speak and engage. Speak and engage. And then don't take yourself too seriously. This was ASOS. They misprinted a letter on their carrier bag. So instead of spelling online, they spelled O-N-I-L-N-E. And they came on Twitter and they just said, they laughed about it. It was, so we may have printed 17,000 bags with a typo. We're calling it a limited edition. So sometimes you make mistakes on social media. That's not the time to close your accounts. Own your mistake and laugh about it. Don't take yourself too seriously. And then be known for something. The same way that I was writing about investment, and then people came to, organizations recognized what I was writing about. Be known for something, whatever your subject matter is. So that when people search for that subject matter online, they find you. So be known for something and be very consistent. Be very consistent. So don't say you're tired. Write. It may take your time. Do those videos. Write. You may think people are not really paying attention, but Google is indexing all that information. You may think you're not having an impact now, but there's an index going on. And before you know it, when people type that subject matter, your website or your YouTube page or whatever is going to pop up. And then finally, please mine your data. This is what I mean. The lady I bought ice block from and the caterer that I bought from, they made a very big mistake. When someone comes to you like that you do not market, you should prioritize them as a customer, because it means that these are people who came with their own 2 feet to look for you. You didn't spend any money market, so shouldn't you collect their contact information? Shouldn't you send them a follow-up in 1 month? Are you still interested in ice block? You should prioritize them. You should even find out, how did you get to know about me? So as a business, you need to mine your data. Find out who are the people that give you the most business within a quarterly period. How can you turn them into more regular customers? Who are the people that you do not market but yet came to meet you? How can you, turn them into more regular? Mine the data. There are a lot of opportunities in the customer data that you have. You need to learn to mine that data. So at this point, I'm going to shut up and then hopefully take some questions during the interactive session. Thank you.
Well, I hope you really got a lot from that. Like we said, we have a follow-up to this conference website called business.summitexpo.com.ng. Can you register there? We're going to appeal to our speakers to give us their materials, which we will upload to that site so you can access it. And then we're going to have service providers there. I can tell you already that Tinkling D at the back over there, they work with us at iBridge Hub, are ready to help you do your Google My Business instantly here. They've gotten permission from Google to approve your Google My Business once they can confirm your details. And all that is free of charge here right now. So please take advantage of that. I'm going to ask them to slightly adjust the stage. Mr. Demola Davis is going to come up in a few minutes to handle the interactive session. But before he does that, I want to give an opportunity to our main sponsors, Bank of Industry, Mr. Ike Ahmed is the regional head for this city, this region, to just come up and say a word to you. And then I'm going to ask the DG of Dawn Commission to say a word, and somebody from the government office to say 1 or 2 words while we get this place ready. So all this should take maximum 10 minutes, but they'll use that opportunity to make our guests as comfortable as possible and check their microphones so we don't do testing mic. All right, we've gone past that a long time ago. Thank you very much. We give you about 3 minutes, sir.
Good afternoon, all. And all protocol observed. Like he has rightly introduced me, I'm the Regional Manager, Bank of Industry, Southwest Operation. Mr. Ahmed Ibrahim Kagara. Am I going there too? Okay. So, of course, the organizers of this program, particularly Mr. Francis, uses public contact and his online connection and fish out Bank of Industry and approach Bank of Industry online. I don't know him. We have not met him. He fish us online and send a proposal and said he believes a bank like Bank of Industry should be interested in a program of this nature. And my colleague over there, the manager of Bank of Industry, Oyo State, Mr. Parkins, he came to me, he said, this is what he received. I said, who are these people? You know, this is Nigeria again, Oga. You see, it is important we talk about this online. There's no doubt about it. There's no argument. But of course, we must bring trust in our society. Trust. That trust is the most critical thing that will make life much, much more easy for Nigerian business people. From our experience, like China, for example, I think I can say that they are the most, somehow, I can say, difficult people to deal with, either due to communication problem, and they so much believe in themselves. So, anything Nigeria, for us in the bank, we have discovered this from the other part of the world. You need to convince somebody who you want to even buy his product to even deal with you, because they are a Nigerian, for that matter, unfortunately. But we will get there. That is not the topic. But I believe that trust will help this kind of discussion. If we instill trust on ourselves. In fact, we are hoping to see a situation which we have started. People will apply for loan to Bank of Industry online. We will process it online. And we disburse the money to you online. And we expect you to pay online without really coming to the branch. You don't need to come to the bank. But we will only do it again when that trust is still there. Because when I release my money, I don't want to start calling the line or calling the website. It's blocked, it's closed. Or when we try to visit the place and say, let's go and see the business, they say, who are you? From where are you coming from? We say, Bank of Industry. What happened? We say, so. Because what I have learned within these few minutes of my stay here, even if the bank asks me to say, my brother, it's time for you to go home and sleep, they will not remove the thing that I have learned from this place. So I enjoyed these three speakers, Madam Sumobi, Tayo, and of course Tunde. I enjoy Doctor, you know. Madam, you have opened our eyes. So really, when we review what Oga sent to us, we said this is a good idea. And for us as a development, so the bank is willing to spend some little resources and partner with agencies like Subomi organization. And Madam, we are so much interested with what you said. I was saying that we will follow you to get your contact. Yeah, because she said when people want to do business, I want to invest, she receives alert. And we will come for those alerts. We want to know those people who want to invest, particularly in Nigeria and in particular also in the Southwest where we are operating now. Bank of Industry is willing and ready. Our challenge is getting the right people. Government has been spending money, a number of schemes in the past, billions and billions of naira and dollars have been going through different schemes by the government in this country. But what are we getting? We are not getting the best of what we desire. So we have some little resources, which we are also making effort in getting more resources, both in Nigeria and abroad. We have several lines of credit from African Development Bank, from many other banks, Afrexim, African Export-Import Bank, and so many other banks. A dry cleaner, for example, I didn't know him. Somebody just gave me his number. I phoned him, and we exchanged WhatsApp. He told me to drop my cloth. I travel a lot within the West. Each time I'm coming to the office, I bring my cloth, drop it at the security man post in my office. The dry cleaning man will come with his car and collection. They will collect it and go. And then, of course, he will deliver it and alert me that it's with my security man in the office. I pick it. And then I will see his debit advice on my email address. I will pick the account number, take my phone, transfer money to him.
Has brought us the cooperation of many, many companies. I'm very happy this morning that the DG, in spite of his crazy schedule, and it is crazy, dealing with 6 governors with different temperaments, to still find time this afternoon to be able to come here. So I want to give him at least 5 minutes. After that, we'll go straight to the interactive session. Can we welcome Mr. Sheye Oye Leye?
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon. My name is Shayo Ile from Dawn Commission here in Ibadan. Dawn Commission stands for Development Agenda for Western Nigeria. It is a creation of the Southwest states, the 6 Southwest states, Lagos, Ogun, Oyo, Osun, Ondo, and Ekiti. Basically, we're to midwife the integration process, working together as a block. We realized that this is the way to go. When Shubumi was talking, she was talking about that she's even old for this generation on some things. Then if she's old for this generation, that means I'm an ancestor. Let me assure you that I'm actually at home when you're talking of things like e-commerce. So many years ago, I spent about 10 years of my life working as a programmer and later as a database administrator in England and America. So I'm a bit home here. I'm glad and I want to congratulate you for coming here. I know that these 2-3 days will be a worthwhile experience. And I'm glad it's happening in Ibadan, Southwest Expo. More often than not, these things are taken to Lagos. We tend to forget that Ibadan still is the political capital of Western Nigeria. It's not Lagos. Lagos is the commercial capital. So welcome to Ibadan, the political capital of Western Nigeria. And as I said, Dawn, we are really, really excited that this is taking place. I crafted a 3-page speech, which I will not read, but I will give you some experts. I said here that what we preach at the Commission as the reason for development in the world as it is today and as it will be tomorrow is competitiveness. It remains the most important word in our vocabulary. If you are not competitive in today's world, you are not going to survive. If you sit in your little corner thinking the world will come to you, no. I have a friend who says all the time, please blow your trumpet. Don't wait for any other person to blow it. Everybody's busy blowing theirs. If you don't pick your trumpet to blow it, you will be there and you think the world has left you behind. So again, we at the Commission, one of the things we do to encourage our businesses, we tell them to move with the times. Gone are the days of you open a shop. As you rightly said, the last 2 cars I bought them from US. I didn't leave my house in Bodija. I sat on the internet, saw the vehicle, liked it. I didn't even speak with them. We communicated by email, wired money, and the car got to Ibadan from America. That's the power of e-commerce. So we are actually excited, as I said again, that you guys are here. And my team at Dawn Commission, we have a stand here where we've explained what we do. We relate, we have, as Pastor said, we have 6 states that we relate to. We have a meeting tomorrow with the 6 governors in Lagos. Here says, are we late? The future started yesterday. We are already late. That's a fact. But we are not going to throw up our arms and say, oh, we're late. No. The good thing is we are fast learners in Nigeria. We are very fast learners. All we need to do is think of the possibility and we latch onto it. So what I want us to do here is please expose your mind. Expand your mind whilst you're here over the next 3 days. Think of the impossible. Once you are thinking of the impossible, that means it's possible. That means it's possible. So I was watching a video that was sent to me 2 days ago of an architect talking about a building that will be changing location every minute, flats. He's thinking ahead. We have a generation now in Nigeria that their mind is expanded, but please stretch it further and use it for positive things. The sky, I say again, the sky is not the limit, but we are done, we are ready to partner. As I said, we are based at the 10th floor, our stand is over there. Go there. We give access to government. We do it for free. We are not the typical civil service. If you walk into our office today, you want to see me, I will see you.
And a few pool tables we're going to bring out in the evening for you to relax. I want you to think you're working for Google by the time you leave here. So without further ado, I need to hand over to Mr. Demola Adewusi. My sister has to go back to Lagos as soon as possible. Her taxi cab is waiting outside to do that. So please, let's get it done.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay, I'm the one who's supposed to collect the money. So bring out your checks. Oh, sorry, I forgot. It's digital. My account number will be here now, so you can. Why did the mood suddenly change? Because I talked about money. Why? Everybody just clammed up. Immediately I talked about money. Don't worry, I won't collect your money. Actions. But before we do that, I bring good news. There is free internet connectivity for everybody who's here, courtesy of MTN. And you can use iNet to do that. Isn't that nice? I thought people would clap. You might not be happy when I talk about collecting money, but you should be happy when you're going to get free internet. Because the internet... Should I call him Maxitech? Okay, so I will wait for him. One more person. I've been told there's a car that is blocking someone. KTU 542BK. Okay, thanks, sir. So we're waiting for Mr. Adetayo Bamiduro, CEO Maxitech, to please join us on the podium here. And please let me repeat this. Blue Mitsubishi space car KTU 542BK. If you're the owner of that vehicle, please, you need to help us repark it. So we're waiting for Mr. Bamiduro. Oh, thank God he's here. All right, so people who have other businesses are doing this, okay? Now I'm waiting for the questions. Can I have some so that, oh, quite a lot. Okay, so, okay, quick one. I like this one. I'll answer this one. It says, is it possible to get a soft copy of the presentation? The answer is no. Well, there will be a website, and just like Pastor Francis has been saying, this is the beginning of a conversation. Obviously, a lot of the things that we've done here, you will still have an opportunity to interact and engage with the speakers here if you belong to that community. So I don't think it is our goal to load you with the presentations. It's not a degree, but if you like, I will award you a degree after this program. I'll just use my good or bad office to award you a degree. But we'll think about it, okay? So we'll listen before starting a school. Dr. Adebola, yes. That question says, is it compulsory to take location into consideration before starting a school?
Well, when I spoke, I said that one of the things that the electronic environment does is to substitute transportation with communication. But there are still certain things that you still need to do and transport material objects. For example, you need to transport yourself to a school. So if you are going to set up a school, you probably want to think carefully about how easy it is for people to come to the school. You can use the internet to advertise the school, but for now, a lot of the school is still physical. Of course, there's a lot of education going on the internet. I teach in a number of universities, and I tell my students, whatever I taught you, if you don't understand it, go to MIT and just...
That allows you to know where kids are being born the most within a state, for example. And I can also give you information around other demographics like the average income. So let's say, for example, you're trying to start a school, and let's assume you're targeting middle income people. So using Google data, for example, you can actually pull out, even for cities like Ibadan, what areas have more middle class people who are also having a lot of kids. And then using that, you can intelligently make decisions on where to locate your business. But if you're maybe building a school to target low income people, you can also get satellite data that also allows you to figure out I think the bottom line is just that you should try to be extremely data-driven in whatever business decisions you're making.
Okay, thank you. I'll say to the person who wrote this, if you look at the way banks operate and put their branches, they're extremely data-driven. If you look at businesses like restaurants, they're also extremely data-driven. There is no point putting a school that will not fit into a particular location into that location. And the branding also matters because you will have targeted a particular set of people. So it still links to e-business and e-commerce. You need to use it to mine the data of the people and then use that data to establish the kind of school that you want to establish. Okay, this is for Dr. Tunde Adegbola. Says, I would like to know if your language tools are available for public use. I mean, can I use your language on my website to translate English to Yoruba, Hausa, or Igbo languages?
Yes, that is possible, even though some of our products are still at the beta stage and we are not putting them out for sale, but we can work with people who can work with us as testers who will try out our software without any obligations, and we will consider that later on when we push them out as
English. Okay, Mr. Bamiduro, how do I start a business that is not so much capital intensive but lucrative? Because most of my ideas come with big capital. Interesting. I'd like to know the person who asked this question. All right, now.
Well, to be honest, that doesn't sound like it. Okay, to be honest, that doesn't sound like a business or a startup question to me. I think maybe Shubomi might be in a better position to answer that. That sounds like a financial magic type question. I don't know, maybe you want to give a shot at that.
All right, would Shubomi like to take it on?
Well, if you're looking for a business that is not capital intensive, then it means if you try an online platform so that you don't have to worry about overhead costs like business premises. There are also free sales and marketing tools that are available online, free invoicing tools. So if you move your business online such that you take away some of the overhead costs that will be capital intensive, then that brings down the cost of starting the business. So that's the advice that I would give.
All right. My advice to you would be speak to Bank of Industry. Yes. If they think your idea is bankable, yes. Have you tested that idea actually? Have you moved from concept stage to validation? Because ideas are 2 for 3 naira, honestly. It's the guy who can move from idea to implementation that makes the most mileage. So for me, this question is really about, have you tested your idea? I have an idea and I want to go to space. Can you imagine? How I do that, or when I do that, God knows. So let's move on. Somebody says, can you register a business that is not CAC registered? We already treated that. That's why I put it there. So I would like to know if Dr. Tunde Adegbola collaborates with research bodies as follow-ups after medical research has been done. If yes, how can I connect with him? I believe it's great language technology is a great tool for achieving this. Okay? Have you collaborated with any medical research laboratory?
Medical research laboratory?
Yeah.
Well, we did have a research project with the University of Uganda Teaching Hospital, UCH, in which we developed apps that, it was said earlier on, that when you get medicines, when a doctor gives you medicines, the doctor can just Wi-Fi your phone, and the message is there on the phone, and it reminds you when you need to take your medicine. If it's fluid that you have to drink, or tablets you have to take, it specific, tells you the color. This assumes that the person has no literacy at all. So we've collaborated with such organizations, and we are willing to collaborate with more. We did many years ago, probably 10 years ago, we did an HIV/AIDS information kiosk with the Economic Commission, United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, in which you can get information on HIV/AIDS without the ability to read, nor the ability to write. All that is required of you to be able to point out what you want and you hear the information. So we do things like that, and the idea say that as a research organization, our strength lies in our capacity to network with other people who can do what we cannot do.
All right. Thank you, sir. For Mr. Bamidoro, you talked about partnering with companies, the right brand, to help you distribute your products. And you cited Linus and MTN. Does one need an agreement for a certain period because I have a fear of them taking over one's business after taking ground? What do you say to that?
Yeah, that's a very legitimate question. When you're partnering with people or companies that are bigger than you, there's always that risk in there that they might over-exploit you. They probably will exploit you, but that they might over-exploit you. So it's extremely important for you to actually have a legal advisor, specifically a lawyer. I think Shubomi mentioned DIY law. You can actually check their website. I'm sure they can really help you figure out things. But when you're getting into any form of agreement, even from it doesn't even start when you start doing business with them. It starts when you start having conversations with them. Especially if what you're doing, you've put a lot of thought into it. Because intellectual property is also extremely valuable. So typically what I do as a company is we sign non-disclosure agreements before we reveal certain important aspects of our business and how it works to a prospective investor or a prospective partner. And also it's important for you to have your lawyer check your NDA. Don't just download an NDA off the internet and start using it. It may not protect you in certain areas. Then after that, you would also have like contract agreements and operating agreements that would also have a time period attached to it. And then you can make sure that you have things in there that protect you. But overall, I think the simple answer to your question is get a good lawyer to advise you and go over your agreements.
All right, thank you. So get a good lawyer. Somebody says here, what is the percentage on loan annually from Bank of Industry? The Bank of Industry, I understand, does 10% currently. Am I right, sir?
Yeah, interest rate varies from 0% to 10%, depending on the fund we are applying. All
right, sir. So, my Oga at the top, I specifically mentioned one figure, but my Oga at the top mentioned
logical and easily digestible form.
I actually think that question belongs on Google. Yes, I actually think that question belongs on Google. And Shubomi has mentioned a lot of things concerning that particular question. There is nothing you want to do that you won't find a video about doing it on Google. People teach cooking classes on Google. Most of the people you see on Food Network have their own channels on YouTube. So you can teach Yoruba on YouTube. BOI, question for BOI. Do you support agriculture? That's like, does a bank lend money? So I'm not going to take that question. The app for language translation, Dr. Adebola, how do we access or purchase it?
Like I said earlier on, a lot of what we are doing is at the beta stage. They are not at stage we want to sell it out. Like I said, we are a research company. We don't want to sell you a product that we cannot follow up, that we cannot give you user support. And like I've said earlier, part of what we want to take away from here is if people are interested in taking some of our research results, some of our products, and run with them and do commercial business with them, so that frees us from worrying about, the software crashed.
Okay. All right, thank you. There are questions here that I'm going to answer. How do I register my business on YouTube? I just announced, go to the Tinkling D kiosk at the back there. They will help you to do that. This is also another question I'm going to answer. I have a passion for educational consulting but without an educational background, how do I go about this? You have to go get a PGD. At least get something, some certificate that says you know what you're talking about. Because without that, you'll not even be able to register the business. After that, put it online. Another question I'm going to answer. If billboard adverts are a waste, tell me how many Nigerians are connected to the internet. She just did that during her presentation. She showed you the level of penetration
of money, especially if you are a large brand and you feel that, because there's some interesting trend that we also saw with certain consumers online. Because of the problem of internet fraud in Nigeria over many years and 419, especially when you are starting out, sometimes people might find it tough to trust your brand when they've only seen it online. Now, if you are doing something that is also like for the mass market, it's not niche, it's for the mass market, it makes sense, if you can afford it, to invest in some sort of offline activation. Now, billboards are only one type of offline activation. In our own case, in my company, some of the offline activation work that we did was just...
When you click on it, it shows, oh yes, that is the kind of person that we want, and it will continue to follow you. Everywhere you go, it will follow you. So that's the way it is now. Let's move on to another question. How do we, and this question is for you, sir, how do we aggregate and develop an efficient supply chain process for agricultural products?
All right, that's a great question. Apparently, that's one of the questions the Economic Growth Recovery Plan is trying to answer right now. So maybe you should head to Abuja. There's a lot of distribution involved, and distribution is a key aspect of your cost structure in Nigeria. You really need to be very, very careful, because distribution can erode all your margins overnight. So if you are into, say, food, for example, and the food you are doing is stuff like maybe tomatoes. Tomatoes go bad very fast. So if I go to distribute tomatoes, you need access to like cold chain, cold trucks, etc. Those are expensive. I don't know if the margin still makes sense for you. But if you're into agri-produce, that is like, I don't know, maybe like yams, or maybe things that don't go bad very quickly, or like beetroot or whatever it is, then the risk there is much less. But supply chain is a real challenge in Nigeria and across board.
Some brother of ours convinced somebody to buy the Muritala Mohammed International Airport, and the man paid, only to find out that the airport didn't belong to the man who, and you can Google that. So the point is, I don't want us to be afraid of the fact that, I don't want us to hyperventilate about it. There will be fraud in places where you have human transactions, whether they're online or offline. But if you protect yourself, if you do the right things, and you do your due diligence, people...
Very intelligently and with a lot of knowledge on specific areas. There are people who also specialize on fighting internet fraud. And so I will advise anybody who has doubts to seek out and consult people who really understand what the
internet security and all of that is. Okay.
Okay, well, fraud is definitely a big challenge. There's a lot of innovative ways to combat fraud online. For example, in our case, we use two-factor authentication when we do deliveries, for example. So essentially, it's a very simple thing we do. If we're doing a delivery to you, and we want to make sure that, especially if it's a high-value item, and we want to make sure that you are actually the person we're delivering to, we would send you a code via SMS, because we have your phone number. And then when the delivery guy gets to your destination, he would ask for the code, and then that person will provide it to the delivery driver, and then the person will authenticate you. So there's a lot of different ways you can do that. But I mean, if you collect payments online, there's so many really smart companies today. There's Paystack here, there's Flutterwave, etc. These guys bear the risk on your behalf, so you can rest assured that if you're collecting payments online, there's a lot of platforms now that can indemnify you as part of helping you to collect, to process payments online. But I don't think it's...
behind the business, that would also help.
All right. Thank you very much. I want us to appreciate them before they leave in a few minutes. Some people are raising questions that should be directed to the organizers. For instance, they said they didn't get the opportunity to get the sponsorship. subsidize their bookings. Please direct all those inquiries to Mrs. Oduaya at the gate. We will do whatever it is we can to accommodate you. We're not here to make money from you. We're here to help you. But we must do it with reason. And we're not happy that you didn't take advantage of the early booking. And so we're not going to be responsible for your mistakes. So you need to explain to us why we should compensate, why we should allow you to come on board without that. We want to have a logical explanation, seeing you had enough time to have done the right thing. So please see Mrs. Oduaya. I'll do my best to instruct that they give as many people as opportunity to take part. I have a question, and I can take the mic anytime I like. The Nigerian post office, I was listening to a Jack Ma interview, and he was saying that in China, they're trying to
solve some of the distribution challenges that we have, especially within the context. Now, but you know, when you look at what has been done in other parts of the world, I've had the privilege to look at Alibaba's logistics and supply chain network very closely. It's called China. Amazing, absolutely amazing. But I will explain what they did. Very similar also to what Amazon did in the US. When you look at the large e-commerce platforms, they are actually fundamentally logistics companies. They are actually not websites. They've invested billions, literally of dollars, in building out very robust fulfillment and logistics platforms around their countries. Now, when you look at a company like Amazon, for example, when they started scaling up, not only did they invest in warehouses, they also invested in automation. So you will have very large fulfillment centers in the US that have maybe 15, 20 employees. But almost the entire system is operated by robots and robotic arms. Now, when you look at a country like China as well, and you look at what Alibaba has done, they've also invested billions. In fact, it's very interesting what they did. Alibaba invested not only in technology, but also in infrastructure. So what they did was, they would build warehouses, invest in infrastructure, and then invite third-party logistics companies to come and operate them. Now, if we are going to build a very vibrant e-commerce system in Nigeria, 1, 2, or 3 people will need to invest heavily in fulfillment infrastructure. And a lot of this stuff is not sexy stuff. It's like really hard stuff, and it's a lot of money. Now, I don't know if NIPOST has that money, because it's a lot of money. And it's also a lot of innovation as well. Because NIPOST is also kind of like partly managed by the government, I don't know if they can execute with the kind of speed that is required. Now, in my case, if I would predict what would happen, I would just tell the government to sell NIPOST off, or completely divest off of it, and allow a serious-minded player to come in, put in the money, and be able to recoup their investment. The other reason why I think it's better off selling it off is fulfillment and supply chain is so capital intensive that you don't want too many people competing in it. You want those who invest a lot of money in it to be able to recoup their investment. So you don't want too much competition in it as well. You want those who put out their money to be able to protect their margins over the medium term and to be able to recoup their investment. The alternative to that is if you have something like Alibaba and Amazon. Now let me explain. The reason why Alibaba and Amazon continue to invest billions without worrying too much about it is their business models are very interesting. And somebody said this to me when I was in China. He said we're in an age where the donkey does the work and we milk the hen. So I'm like, okay, there's no cow in there. And it's very interesting that if you look at a company like Amazon, their most profitable business is AWS. Has nothing to do with logistics even, right? But they make so much money from other strategic arms of their business that they're able to pump money into what drives their business, which is their fulfillment. But they don't necessarily make a lot of money from fulfillment. Same for Alibaba. They make a lot of money from Alipay, which is their payments platform. But the payments platform is driven by the data they get from the millions of businesses and customers that use Taobao, Tmall, and all their other e-commerce platforms. So they're making so much money from other business arms that allow them to double down to invest in a key driver of value, but not necessarily where they make a lot of money. Now, let's look home. How do we make this work in a place like Nigeria? The bottom line is someone needs to invest a lot of money in our supply chain and in logistics. But that person had better be making money from somewhere else. So if you look at the biggest trucking company in Nigeria today, it's Dangote. They have 15 to 20,000 trucks. But trucking is a loss leader for them. But they make so much margins on cement and whatever it is they sell that they can absorb that cost. Now, I don't know if you can absorb that cost. So it's a very complex question as well. And it's, there's a lot of different parts to it. But supply chain.
And then we'll have, the break. So, the question today, I am going to answer it. It says, I produce sachet and bottled water. Majority of my customers are illiterate. How can online business increase my sales from this category? Should I repeat the question? I produce sachet and bottled water. Majority of my big customers are illiterate. How can online business increase my sales from this category? Now, the answer is, would you like your business to grow beyond the illiterate class? If the answer is yes, then you've got to plan for it now. But if you want it to remain at that level, then you won't do e-commerce. But you must plan to ensure that your business grows beyond that level. Now, if you notice right behind there, we've got classes that we want you to register for. Because this is not only about...
I want to say thank you to the three of you. I really appreciate your coming. Let's appreciate them one more time, please. Let them. Now, they have to leave. They have to leave. But what we've done is I've appealed to them to please spend 5 minutes in my office to talk to one or two of you who are serious-minded. Please don't go there asking them about how you're going to start. And if you have a related question, don't waste their time. Please, we want to get them out of here before 2 o'clock so that they can get back to their businesses in Lagos. It's not, and we don't know how, we can't predict the expressway, so we don't want to waste their time at all. So they're going to move them to my office. But I'm happy to say that Max NG has a stand here, so they'll be very useful to you to see them. Remember to be able to talk to one or two of you who have ideas that relate to what they do. Thank you very much. Have a good lunch, and we'll see you here at exactly 2 for the next session.
Sorry, quick announcement, please. If you're the owner of the following